Welcome to another Trackmania Turbo Trackmaster tutorial. For this one, I clearly got Trackmaster, there's no debating it. Even before my best run, I already had it. So this one, by far, I got it, so you don't have to worry about what system you're on, whether if you get the same time I do, if that's enough to actually get it. Also, with this one, this is with a new car. This is the F1 style car. And it's sort of like an F1 in the sense of it has a lot of grip. But honestly, it's not nearly as twitchy as an F1 in a racing simulator type game. This, in my opinion, is overall the easiest to drive car. It's probably not the one that I'm best at just because the tracks that go along with it are harder. But in terms of getting used to the car, it's probably about the easiest. Tracks, different story. Car, pretty easy though. So anyway, getting right into it. The F1 is overall the fastest as well, but it has tons of grip to where the speed is not all that big of a deal. For these turns, they're easily full throttle, and actually for this entire track, it's full throttle. So just stay pretty close to apexes there, but you don't have to get too close. By the time to the next turn, you want to pretty much be in the middle there to make the jump, so there's really no point going too far over to try to get a better turn in for this turn. Because one, you're on the jump anyway, so that's all like quick steering that could mess you up. And two, even though you don't have the best angle through that turn, that actually angles you out to a point in which you carry more angle to the next turn, because if you carry less angle into the first turn, you're closer to the apex. So then, it's actually harder to do the next turn, because you're not as far out. So overall, it helps doing it as I did there. I'm not all that much near the apex for the next turn either, but with the rest of it being full throttle, easily, it's no big deal. These turns actually aren't all that hard. This turn I got kind of close to the thing, but again, that's just because I was more on the outside. If you just do all steering motion there, like 100% to the left, you'll make it pretty much. Next turn is relatively easy. This one you do want to go ahead and get all the way to the apex because it's the last major turn for how long it is. The next turns aren't all that long. That one's probably the longest overall turn, but just right on the apex, it's easy enough to do. This one just a little, not even really a turn as much as the switching lanes, just kind of waft over to the left there, easy enough. Be in the middle there so you can make that jump. And then you're to the line. This one is one of the easier events I've had, really. It's completely full throttle, and about the most risk to hit the walls depending on how much angle you get into the first turn. Like if you don't carry all that much angle and you're closer to that apex, it may be harder to do the rest of it. Overall, you may lose a bit of time and have more risk of hitting walls, but really, if you're full throttle through it and don't hit anything, no matter what type of angles you take, you're going to get Trackmaster. Because the previous run, I didn't hit anything full throttle and I got Trackmaster. This run, I just did it in more of a clean way and a smooth way, so I was able to improve my time. But even so, before, I got it as well. And this particular run, doing it as I did, was actually overall one of my better rankings for these. I was first in Kentucky, and I almost top 100 in the US, so that's pretty picking good for a relatively early one with still pretty good amount of people in it. So, as y'all can see there, the F1 is probably the easiest car to drive. This particular track in general is easier, but the tracks later on in the 30s get harder. So, I hope y'all enjoyed this, learned something from it. This is a good practice to get used to this car before you start going into harder ones. I recommend doing this one first. Generally, I do them in a linear order anyway, but definitely for this car. And as always,